What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the channel as we have some breaking news here as the New York Mets add to their bullpen another ex-Yankee, Luke Weaver, to 2 years, $22 million, $11 million per year. And the Mets add more to their bullpen. It is, let's be honest, these are upgrades considering what the Mets had last year with a lot of the injuries, a lot of the bad performances. These are solid guys. I know a lot of people were going to talk about Luke Weaver. Had a really tough second half last year for the Yankees. He was good in the first half, fell off the face of the earth in the second half for whatever reason. Obviously, the Yankees had to do something at the deadline to add bullpen help because Luke Weaver was struggling, Devin Williams was struggling, and now they're both New York Mets. So now they are here. Now, am I overly excited? Absolutely not. But when you're looking to upgrade bullpen, these guys are solid additions. Luke Weaver is solid. Devin Williams is good. And there isn't any time to think about, oh, he's a Yankee. We got another Yankee. It doesn't matter. Really, at the end of the day, doesn't it make your team better? You know how many Mets relievers had well over a 4 ERA last year? Well, Luke Weaver is 3.67. Devin Williams was up there for sure. But I do feel like Devin Williams is a guy where he's gonna be close to what he was 2 years ago. I'm not saying he's gonna be great, one of the better closers in baseball, but I do think he's going to be a solid reliever. Now, are the Mets done when it comes to top relievers? Like, are they still in on Mason Miller, right? That was the story we heard the last couple of days, that the Mets are shifting focus to Mason Miller and Luis Robert Jr. Does this stop us going after Mason Miller? If it does, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I think you go get Mason Miller and you pair him with Luke Weaver and Devin Williams and A.J. Minter and Brooks Raley and possibility of Dylan Ross being a part of this bullpen. That sounds a lot better. That looks a lot more better than what you had 3 weeks ago. So I'm not going to say, see, here's the problem. I don't want Luke Weaver and Devin Williams being our 8th to 9th guy. I think that's very risky. I'm not saying they're going to be bad, but I don't think they're going to be as good. And that is what I worry about when it comes to what is David Stearns doing now, because is the price too steep for Mason Miller? And that's why David Stearns shift to Luke Weaver and pairing Luke Weaver and Devin Williams to the back end of the bullpen. Does that excite you? I don't know. So that is where we are right now with Luke Weaver. 2 years, $22 million signed, and everything went through. The physical is done and all that stuff. So this happened rather quickly. And the Mets need to worry about getting started pitching at this point now. You got two relievers, solid relievers, right? Good additions. I think the Mets is forming a good bullpen. I'm not going to say it's a great bullpen. I'm not going to say it's the best in baseball. But on paper, it's solid. It's a good bullpen. Especially A.J. Minter coming back, hopefully healthy. You got Brooks Raley, who was outstanding last year. We still have Brazaban here, where he looked really good. I think the Mets overused Brazaban last year, and it showed in the second half. He has really good stuff, and he limited his walks, especially in the first half. But I just think they overused him, and I think this bullpen could be good. But I want Mason Miller. If you get Mason Miller, now we're having a conversation about, okay, Luke Weaver can be a 7th inning, Devin Williams can be an 8th inning, Mason Miller can be a 9th inning, and you still got Raley, you still got Minter, you still got Dylan Ross, you still got Brazaban. That is really good. Now, this is a situation where you can use so many different guys, and that's what I like. But go get Mason Miller. If you're in on him, and you're serious about him, and you're shifting focus to Mason Miller and Luis Robert Jr., go get Mason Miller, right? It might cost you. It really might. Now, there is a conversation. We talked about it yesterday where the Mets might take on a bad contract. We talked about Xander Bogaerts. There is other bad contracts out there. Nick Pivetta isn't a bad contract, but it is money off the books for the Padres. If you get Mason Miller and Nick Pivetta, well, you kill two birds with one stone. You get your closer, and you get a rotation piece that can be a top 3 starter in your rotation. That is really good. That is what we're talking about. That is how you progressively get this roster to where it needs to be. Am I telling you it's going to be better than what we had last year? I don't know. We only had 83 wins last year. It's not like we were, 12, 15 games over 500. We were 2 games over 500. So I'm not going crazy with thinking that this team overall is going to be worse than last year. I know some Mets fans are still heartbroken over the Nimmo, Diaz and Pete Alonso. Absolutely. But you can win in many different ways. And I think the Mets are really in on Cody Bellinger. And with the addition of Jorge Polanco, who is a 20 to 25 home run type of guy, same thing with Bellinger, is a 20 to 25 home run guy. Let's say on the low end, they hit 22 home runs apiece. That's 44 home runs right there. And that lightens out your lineup. You're not talking about Soto yet or Lindor. You didn't bring up Brett Beatty. You didn't bring up Alvarez yet. And with Simeon, who's probably a 20 home run guy, 18 to 20 home run guy as well. So you're spreading out your lineup to a lot of 20 home run guys, not including Lindor and Soto, who are a 30-plus home run guy. And last year, we had a top 4 that if you looked at their stats, you would think the Mets are world beaters. But guess what was the problem? 5 through 9. Bringing in Bellinger, it stretches out your lineup. With Jorge Polanco, with Brett Beatty, with Francisco Alvarez. Even though I think in a bad year for Francisco Alvarez, he can hit 20 home runs. He was just injured a lot. Brett Beatty shows he can do it. I think he could be a 20 home run guy. So now you're looking at, Slick, you could say you're missing 20 home runs, 50 RBIs, but look at all the RBIs that we had in the top 4 of our lineup last year. How did that work out for us? You can have all the RBIs you want, but it's when you get those RBIs. Because Nimmo had a lot of wasted RBIs. Pete Alonso probably had the best season when it comes to runners in scoring position and where his RBIs really mattered. But we talked about Soto with a lot of his solo shots. Didn't hit a 3-run homer until late in the year, or more than a 2-run homer late in the year. Lindor didn't have a great season with runners in scoring position. So their stats look good, but at the same time, what did it amount to? It amounted to nothing. Because, how many times were we losing games, 6-0, and the Mets score a couple of runs? So, they're wasteful RBIs. And there is a thing that these RBIs are meaningless. So, well, Hakeem, we're not trading Lindor. If you can't make the playoffs, you can't either. well, Bobby, that's the thing, right? You get a guy in Jorge Polanco who's a 265, 270 hitter. You get Simeon, who is around a 260, 270 hitter. Bellinger is a 280 hitter, 290 hitter, close to 300. So in just that spectrum, you can put more bat on ball. We always focus on home runs, which everybody only cares about that production. You know what? If I can have 3 guys in my lineup that hit 260 or better with Soto, with Alonso, with Lindor, that's better. And Sal, of course, everybody would take Tucker over Bellinger, but Bellinger still fits this team so well. And Tucker will too, but you also have to understand, you sign Tucker plays right field, Juan Soto goes to left field. Do you really want to make left field a problem? That's an issue. A guy who's not a really good defender, you're going to throw him in left field. That really doesn't make sense. So at least with Bellinger, he can play center. He can play left. He can play first base. And it gives the Mets options when it comes to what they're supposed to do or what they need to do. Because they can go any which way. They can get Murakami, they can get Okamoto, they can, leave Benji in center field and go get us, or get Luis Robert Jr., put Benji in left field. You got Robert Jr. in center field, and now you got your lineup. And now you got your situation where a guy like Robert Jr. can hit 18 to 20 home runs. Carson Benj is a question mark, but what we heard about him, he does have some legit power. So let's say he hits 15 home runs. Let's not go crazy. But let's say he hits 15 to 20 home runs. Well, now you don't only lengthen out your lineup, no doubt about that. But you also get better defensively in the outfield with Robert Jr., with Carson Bench, who is a very good glove. Juan Soto is Juan Soto, not great, but it is what it is. He's there for his bat. You get better up the middle with Simeon. Brett Beatty has been really good defensively ever since he came back up the second time last year. So I'm confident in him in third base. And if you get Okamoto, who is a guy who is a very good defender, Gold Glove caliber first baseman, you solidify your defense in most of your positions in the infield, on the field. And there was so many bad plays, so many mishaps last year where the Mets gave runs away. Constantly gave runs away. And yes, you got to score runs, but I'm telling, look, let's say the Mets get Bellinger, right? Let's just put it out in perspective here. You get Bellinger, and let's say the Mets get Okamoto. So you got Carson Bench in left field. You got Bellinger in center. You got Okamoto at first base, who was another guy who does have some power. I think he had 27 home runs last year in Japan. Let's not go crazy. Let's say 20 home runs. I like to go in that 20 home runs and go on the lower end because it just puts it in perspective. Dolo, but what wins you a championship, right? Because Pete Alonso didn't win us a championship. Brandon Nimmo didn't win us a championship. Edwin Diaz didn't bring us a championship. So what? If you can define what brings us a championship, what wins us a championship, tell David Stearns. Because if it was that easy, every team would win it whatever year they need to. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, but Dolo, that's not a lot of holes. You filled your holes. You got Carson Bench in left field, Bellinger in center field, and you got Okamoto in first base. Now, what are you missing? Are you missing the bad defense of Brandon Nimmo, or the offense that everybody seems that he's so great with? Yet it seems like it's a shallow bunch of stats for Brandon Nimmo. Because what are we missing? And yeah, we'll get to that rotation for sure. And again, I think they're still going to make a big move for a starting pitcher. I said this, if it's Peralta, if it's Tariq Skubal, if it's Sandy Alcantara, guys like that. I still think they're going to get one of those guys. And we'll see. Look, the Mets lost because of pitching last year, but let's not act like the lineup 5-9 wasn't a complete disaster. Alvarez was basically a no-show. We were going between Beatty getting sent to the minors and Acuna playing. That was no offense for a while. Vientos was a shell of himself for 2024. You had Tyrone Taylor playing center field. That is not good. You had Luis Torrens, who was playing every day, but he's not a really good bat. So our 5-9 was embarrassing. At least with what I projected in Bellinger, Okamoto, and Benj, you lengthen out your lineup 1-6, 1-7. And it's a lot of better players, and everybody can say Alcantara sucks all you want. Did everybody forget what he did to us the last 2 games in September? What Mets pitching couldn't do, 6 and 7 innings of excellent pitching. The guy just came back from Tommy John. After the first year, it takes time to build up that arm strength and to be confident in that arm. If anybody believes that Sandy Alcantara isn't a guy, and again, I'd rather get Tariq Skubal as well. I'm on your side with that. I would rather get Sandy Alcantara as well. But I'm not going to complain if you get Sandy Alcantara. I'm just not. Camp, we need a power hitter. Okay. Like, Soto hit 40 home runs last year. Lindor's the 30 home run guy. That's 70 home runs between two people. And again, we're talking about all the guys that we talked about, a bunch of 20 to 25 home run guys. That's more than enough home runs to go around. But we're all focused on power and home runs. We got hitters here. That's the point. Am I telling you that it's going to be successful? But on paper, it would look a lot better. Like, we're all focused. Like, what was it? 38 home runs from Pete Alonso, 25 from Nimmo. That is what? 63 home runs? That's from two guys. If you get a bunch of guys that hit 20 to 25 home runs of Bellinger and Okamoto and Simeon, Beatty with 15 to 20 home runs, Alvarez, 15 to 20 home runs, that is a lot. Okay, you need at least 2 to 3 power hitters. The Mets had that last year. They had Lindor 30, they had Soto 40, and they had Pete Alonso 38. How did that work? 83 wins. That was exciting. The Mets didn't have a length out lineup. It was too compact to the top. With what I propose, and again, we can mix the players' names. If you don't want Bellinger and you want to get Tucker, I don't think Tucker's becoming a Met. I just don't. Like, I don't like talking about Tucker because I don't believe it's gonna happen. Bellinger, like, people act like Bellinger's a bad player. Like, I'm not telling you he's as great as he was when he first came up with the Dodgers. I'm not saying that at all. But he's a 20 to 25 home run guy. He'll bat you 260, 270, probably around 280. And this is where it looks better. And there was a report, I forgot who said it. I was listening to WFAN. Some Yankee reporter was saying that it looks like it's going to be between the Mets and the Yankees, and the Mets are very much involved. It wasn't who the hell was the reporter? It wasn't the Yankee reporter. It was, I forgot who it was. They were talking about it earlier, but a Yankee reporter also came out and talked about that. Yes, it's between the Mets and the Yankees before Bellinger, and the Mets are really serious about Cody Bellinger, and they should be. They should be. Well, Slick, I don't know how we got worse at pitching. Like the starting pitch is not figured out yet. Like that's got to get worked on. Look, listen, the Mets can't do anything with pitch. If they do, crappy nonsense with pitching, we're gonna have a problem, and I will complain. I promise you that. Like, Bellinger isn't a bad player. He's a solid player. I'm not telling you he's a great player. He's a solid player. We were rolling out there a broken down Nimmo and Tyrone Taylor in center field. That was a fucking disaster. Bellinger is excellent defensively. So wherever he plays, you're going to get great defense. And you're going to get 20 to 25 home runs from him. That is fine. Like, we're obsessed with, we need 2 to 3 to 4 power hitters. Come on, guys. We had that last year. That same top of the lineup that all hit between 25 and 40 home runs, it was terrible with runners in scoring position the first half of the year, first couple of months of the season. What? Like, it didn't make sense. And it was the top guys that were a problem. Even Alonso was good, but other than that, everybody was better runners in scoring position. So I'm not telling you that the lineup is going to be drastically better. Like, if you just love home runs, go right ahead. I'm not saying home runs are bad, but we hit a ton of home runs in our top 4 in our lineup, and it ended up being ultimately a problem because we hit a lot of those home runs with nobody on base or not enough people on base. When we had people on base, they wouldn't come through with a base hit. I could see Simeon getting base hits. I could see Bellinger putting the bat on the ball. If you notice, the Mets are bringing in more contact-ridden hitters. If Bellinger is aboard, he hits the contact. Simeon, same thing. Like, no protection for Soto. Okay. So? Well, I mean, he probably will lead in walks, but he always leads in walks. I'm not worried about Soto at all. He don't need protection to be great, to be honest with you. Well, mainly, there you go. A 920 OPS in the second half. Like, that's outstanding. And you know what? It wasn't all about the home runs. Like, we're all obsessed with OPS and just thinking it's about home runs. It's not. Vientos at first base? I hope not. No, Polanco is not at first. What David Stearns talked about when the deal was official was, yeah, right now we can see him playing some first and DH and all around the diamond, basically. But I don't think that's gonna. I don't think it's gonna. I think the Mets are gonna go get a first baseman. If it's Okamoto, if it's somebody that is a stopgap for this year, possibly. Well, rock and roll. Yeah, 5-9 was the problem, but go back and check the stats with runners in scoring position with the top 4 guys in the lineup and tell me they weren't a problem. They were a huge problem the first couple of months of the season. It was like almost to the end of June when they actually started to look like a baseball team. Because they were bottom 5 with runners in scoring position, average-wise. And a lot of the problems was the top of the order. So all those beautiful home runs that everybody seemed to love, it was what 100 home runs between 4 of those guys, probably a little bit more than that, and we were one of the worst for runners in scoring position. Tell me that. How does that make sense? Right, 5-9 was bad. I give you that. But if you go back to earlier in the year, it was the top of the order that left a ton of men left on base, a ton. They got better when the year got later, but they couldn't help the pitch. Yeah, well, alert, Murakami's going to mash, yeah, but I think he's going to be a DH. He's not a very good first baseman. So we'll see. We will definitely see. So once again, guys, Luke Weaver, $22 million for 2 years. Again, a solid addition to the bullpen. I still want to get Mason Miller. I want to get Miller. I think if David Stearns can pull that off, and I do hope he can get a somewhat of a bad contract with Pivetta as well with Mason Miller, because that helps. Yeah, I know. Rock and roll. Alonso carried a team to 83 wins. The obsessive people of Alonso thinking that Alonso just won us championships and he never did. Well, rock and roll. If you're going to give credit to Pete Alonso, then give credit to Soto. Because, yeah, he wasn't great the first couple of months of the season. I mean, he started really getting going in June. So I'll give you that. But, all that beautiful RBIs and all the production from Pete Alonso ultimately got us to 83 wins. And everybody just keeps on thinking that, everybody gives Pete Alonso credit, but never wants to give him the blame. He's one of the guys who've been here the longest with Nimmo and McNeil and Diaz, and Mets act like we've won. We haven't. We've choked more than we won. So he can take that choke to Baltimore. All right? I'm sick and tired about Pete Alonso. I really am. Because people act like this guy's a Hall of Famer. He's not. He's so good he never gets MVP votes. Just think of that. The guy, why is it when Lindor has great numbers, the Mets win? When Pete Alonso has great numbers, the Mets lose. Think about that. Look at the years that Lindor had great seasons. The Mets did something. When Pete Alonso had great seasons, the Mets bottom feeders. 83 wins, losing the wild card to the Cincinnati Reds. Please, about Pete Alonso. Let him enjoy Baltimore. He's not a Hall of Famer. He's not a Hall of Famer. Pete Alonso's not going to be a Hall of Famer. Well, no, of course not. I'm not saying the Dodgers are signing sloppy seconds, but if you think that Luke Weaver and Devin Williams is better than what we had in Soto and Rogers and Helsley, I mean, please. Pete was the MVP. Congratulations. Pete was the MVP who got no MVP votes. When Lindor got MVP votes in 2024, where did the Mets go? Game 6 of the NLCS, right? Okay, Matt, so he hits 500 home runs. Congratulations. Rock and roll, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, you're right. That is true, right? Weaver doesn't suck. He had a rough second half last year with the Yankees. Absolutely. But you know what? The Mets would die for a 3.67 ERA from a bullpen arm. Because a lot of their bullpen arms was well over 4, most of them. So, like, he's got good stuff. I think he's not a closer. And the Yankees tried to make him the closer, even when they had Devin Williams, right? They made Devin Williams a closer. They used Luke Weaver in the setup role. Devin Williams failed. They put Luke Weaver in in the closer spot. That didn't work out. And then they made trades. Obviously, Bednar. So I'm not excited about this move. But to say it's a bad move, it's not. Like, did we watch the Mets bullpen last year? Luke Weaver's a big upgrade considering half the guys that couldn't even get outs. But if Luke Weaver's the 7th or 8th inning guy, I'm fine with that. Now, that's why I want Mason Miller. If you get Mason Miller, now Weaver's your 7th inning guy, 6th, 7th inning guy, along with Brooks Raley, depending on matchups. Devin Williams is your 8th inning guy, and your closer is Mason Miller. Now we're talking about a really good bullpen. Who would be getting a Maya? I don't think it's the Mets. I don't think the Mets are that much into him. You know, David Stern's pockets burn when he hears over 3 years. So I don't think that's happening with Amaya. They should get him. And Slick, yeah, injuries mess with him too, where he kind of was a stop and go. So you could take that into consideration too. But listen, when he pitched, I consider you healthy. I don't care if you were hurt or not. I don't want to hear after the fact you were hurt. If you're hurt, don't pitch. If you're gonna be hurt, you're gonna ultimately hurt your team being out there. So if he's on the mound, good. Then your production or lack of is your fault. And yeah, you're gonna get killed for it and blamed for it. Okay, rock and roll, he got paid to hit home runs and drive in runs. Did he do that? Sure. But he's also supposed to bring winning. He didn't do that. 8 years here, 7 years here with the New York Mets. What did he bring? Met fans were more concerned about the Mets home run record than actually winning games. Right? I was at the game against the Atlanta Braves when he hit the rookie home run record at Citi Field. I was excited for him because it felt like it was a start of a winning culture with Pete Alonso, bringing those vibes. To me, that dwindled over the years because every time we needed Pete Alonso to step up and put this team on his back when it comes to being a leader, and he's done with home runs and RBIs for sure. But Alex Rodriguez had a lot of home runs and a lot of RBIs for Texas. Right? What did he bring? Nothing. You know, if you want to focus on Pete Alonso, go be a Baltimore Oriole fan and enjoy his time in Maryland. Oh, they never brought a legit 5-hitter. Okay, so why did the Mets get to Game 6 of the World Series last year? The worst year of Pete Alonso's career was in 2024. And the Mets made the playoffs and went deep into the playoffs. Now, Pete Alonso was good in the playoffs. I'll give him credit for that. But he was one of the worst players on the 2024 Mets when it came to production-wise. Nimmo had a better season overall. Lindor was MVP. We didn't have Soto. Jose Iglesias, Mark Vientos. Let's not talk about, they had nobody behind Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso's worst year, they had Mark Vientos being the best player we ever seen him be in his career. So, yeah, he had a monster in Vientos. Matt and Hope and Lindor did too. I'm giving Pete Alonso credit. Here's the problem with too many Met fans. I'm giving Pete Alonso where credit's due. But let's not act like this guy brought us to any promised land. All he did was pad his stats and have a lot of losing seasons. And yes, when you're the face of the franchise, Met fans are afraid to give him blame. He gets blamed for the losing. That's it. You don't get to get all the credit and be the face of the franchise and get no blame. You just don't. No, look, rock and roll. I said this. I said this even though I'm not the biggest fan of Pete Alonso. I said I think Pete Alonso would be a better Met than going anywhere else. Now he's going to a bandbox in Camden Yards, so he's going to hit a ton of home runs. But isn't Baltimore doing the exact same thing the Mets did? They got bats, they got a lineup, but they have no pitching. So Pete Alonso's going to hit 40-plus home runs, 120 RBIs, and they're going to be in third place in the AL East and not make the playoffs. Pete Alonso isn't the last addition that the Baltimore Orioles need. You see the problem with that? The same way bringing back Pete Alonso isn't changing anything with the New York Mets. It's the same problem year after year after year. You got to change it, and I'm glad they did. I'm not saying it's for the better. Obviously, we'll see. And I'd be the first one to kill him if this season is a disaster. But let's not act like it already is because Pete Alonso's gone. Like we've had how many winning seasons with Pete Alonso here? And rock and roll. There's still pitchers out there. Once the starting pitching is somewhat put together, we'll have that conversation. And, losing that production and not adding big-time pitching to this rotation, yeah, I'm going to be the first one to tell you it's a problem. But it's not done yet. Right? Bellinger's still out there. Framber Valdez is still out there. Ranger Suarez is out there. We know about the trade possibilities. Pivetta, Alcantara, Skubal. Like, there's still guys out there. Until they're not getting traded or they're signed on other teams and the Mets bring in, lesser talent in their rotation, we'll have that conversation. But to say you can't win with a combination of Bellinger, Benj, Okamoto, along with Alvarez, Beatty, Lindor, Soto, Simeon, is silly. It's very possible to win. But our biggest concern was we couldn't get out of the fourth inning in any game without starters. I want a top starter. I'm not putting Nolan McLean in that top starter role. Not yet. That's why I want a top starter. Give me somebody who's reliable, who is better than anybody the Mets have, and put him in the lead role as the ace. Let Nolan McLean keep going and not putting all the pressure on him. Let him be that number two and let him get even better. Because what the Mets do is don't get an ace. Let Nolan McLean be the ace. Let's say get Pivetta and get maybe, a Michael King type. I don't think they're going to get Michael King, but a Michael King type. And if Nolan McLean takes a step back, well, you're ultimately screwed again. But with Pivetta, who's reliable, it might help. Because the Mets didn't need great pitching last year. They needed reliable pitching. Too many Mets fans lost focus on that. We needed reliable pitching. Somebody who would give you 5 or 6 innings, maybe 3 runs. We used to get 4 innings of 6 runs, 3 innings, 4 runs. We never got quality starts. We never got reliability from anybody after David Peterson fell apart. But let's hope. Yeah, rock and roll, but why wouldn't Bellinger be a Met? If the Mets pay him more than everybody else, he's going to be a Met. I guarantee the Yankee fans, remember last year? Oh, Juan Soto's not going to be a Met. Why would he go to the Mets? Because they paid him the most, right? These guys don't have favorite teams. These guys aren't connected emotionally to a team. If you think they are, you're a moron. These guys are going to the highest bidder. Bellinger is going to go to the highest bidder. If that's the Mets, fine. If that's the Yankees, okay. But he's going to the highest bidder. If he wanted to be a Yankee, he would have took a 3-year deal and signed with them already. The Yankees are crying poor right now. At least you got Ahmed Rosario. I mean, yeah, I don't think the Mets are going to get Michael King. I'd be shocked if he is. I'd be okay with that. I still think the Mets need more. But let's just let the offseason develop. There's so many guys out there, so much starting pitching out there on both markets. There's still position players available for first base and outfield on the free agent market and the trade market. Let's just see how it develops. Listen, I've been killing Stearns all offseason. I want to see this guy make a big trade or a big signing because it shows me he's willing to do it. I haven't seen that yet. If you sign Bellinger for 5 or 6 years, I'm like, holy shit, you actually know that them numbers that are not number 3 or number 2 for signing somebody. I want to see a big trade where he gives up prospects because I see he did it. Until he does any of those, I don't trust him. Mr. Classic, yeah, he was bad with the Dodgers, but that was a while ago. He was good with the Cubs and he was good with the Yankees. It was what, 3-4 years ago. He was good with the Cubs and good with the Yankees. I think he figured out that he can't just be trying to hit 50 home runs. He became a better average hitter and a solid power addition. 20 to 25 home runs, 260, 275 average. Well, rock and roll. See, that's where I think the conundrum is with both the Yankees and the Mets with Bellinger. I think the Mets and the Yankees are willing to go 5 years. I think Bellinger wants that 6th year, and he might hold out until he gets it from either those two teams or somebody else. Yeah, I still think he's a good player. Yeah, but Strike, Yankee Stadium helped him with home runs. I'm not telling you he's going to hit 30 home runs. I'm telling you he's going to hit between 20 and 25 home runs. Like, everybody thought Juan Soto was going to hit 40 home runs again, and he went to a bigger ballpark and hit 41 home runs. So, it's not just, Yankee Stadium does help the power for sure. I think it hurts lefties, especially when they go to a different team because they're so used to the short porch in right field. So, I don't think Murakami is going to sign with the Mets. I think he's more of a DH, and it doesn't fit the Mets because he's not very good with the glove. Again, I go get Okamoto. I think that makes too much. You get Bellinger and Okamoto. You got another piece in your outfield. You got your first baseman, and you can use Carson Benz to be your center fielder or left fielder, wherever you want to have Bellinger play. And then you focus on your starting pitching. And you know what? Go get Mason Miller. Why the hell not? So, let's see. What are you saying, Dole? That's what I mean when I say Bellinger won't shake the Mets' world. We are not a playoff team. Again, Pete Alonso shook our world, right? A lot of other guys shook our world, and we did nothing. We constantly lost. So it's like, again, you only talk about Bellinger. Like, everybody forgets about Soto and Lindor. Nobody's talking about Brett Beatty, who had a like on his last breath, finally looked like he's becoming a player. Everybody thinks that Alvarez, because if he stays healthy, he can be a 30 home run guy. Again, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but everybody thinks that there's one way to win a championship, and it's not. Yeah, well, Strike, if he don't get 5 years, he's not getting Bellinger. But I don't think the Mets would be seriously involved right now if they weren't that close to 5 or 6 years. That's just me. I could be completely wrong. They could be telling them, hey, we'll give you 3 years, $40 million a year. But I don't even think Bellinger would take that seriously. If all the reports are true, and these are coming from multiple sources, it came from Feinstein, I think it was, and a Yankee beat reporter, I forgot his name, that also said that the Mets are very much involved. That's coming from a Yankee reporter. So, because I watched the Yankees Hot Stove the other day, and the beat reporter actually said, he says, yes, the Yankees are seriously in on Bellinger, but the other team in New York is as well, very much so. He did say that directly. So I'm like, okay. So if they're seriously involved, and look, if the Yankees were basically the only team that were willing to give him 5 years or 6, I think Bellinger would have been a Yankee already. But I think the Mets are pushing those years. That's the only way I can think of. But we will see. Let's see. I mean, mainly you might be right. But you know what? We'll see. We'll see. We don't know until it happens. Joel, I agree with that too. I don't believe it until I see it. That's why I don't trust Stearns. That's why I want to see. That's why if he does get Bellinger, let's say for 5 years, that's an indication that David Stearns is willing to do that. That's a start for me. That gives me very, very slight hope that David Stearns knows what he's changing that philosophy just a little bit to get the player he wants. As I said many times on multiple hot stoves, I want David Stearns to be decisive. Will I agree with all his moves? No. But if you're decisive in your moves, I'm not going to go crazy and say, oh, they're wrong. Just because I disagree doesn't mean they're all wrong. I want to see him be decisive. If you want Bellinger, go get him. If you want Mason Miller, go get him. If you want somebody else, go get him. Stop half-assing these offers and stop half-assing these trade proposals. That's not good enough to get the players. If you want them, find a way to get them. If it makes you uncomfortable, then it's probably a good deal. Be decisive in your moves. It doesn't seem like he always pushes back a little bit on offers and on trade proposals with prospects. You can't do that. You got to do one or the other. You should do both. This is the year that you should do both. You got the money and you got a tremendous amount of prospects that you can use as assets. There's more than enough on the roster and in your farm system to get deals done and make your team better. We'll see if that comes to fruition. So, guys, once again, Mets signed Luke Weaver to add to their bullpen, 2 years, $22 million. And we will see what happens next. Maybe another Yankee will be a New York Met very soon in Cody Bellinger. We will see. Keep you updated, guys. Make sure you hit that notification bell. So when I go live for breaking news, you will get that notification right away. With that said, guys, thank you for tuning in to the breaking news with Luke Weaver becoming a New York Met. We'll see you next time, guys. Let's go Mets, and have a great day, guys. Good night.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets.